続いてのスピーカーの方をご紹介させていただきます。続いてのスピーカーはピーター・フランケンさんです。ピーターさん、お願いいたします。
Good morning, おはようございます。I'm going to do this in English today, so よろしくお願いします。Okay, so today I'm going to talk about the story of my life, and it started about 8 years ago, the day after the big earthquake here. I've been living in Japan for about 30 years, and when the earthquake happened, we all learned about the Fukushima disaster. And in many, many ways that started to affect what was happening in Tokyo. And what happened was we started to worry about, is this going to affect our lives? How does it, how does that work? And we wanted to figure out what the radiation levels were here in Tokyo. So we said, well, maybe we can help by collecting data and sharing it, but we couldn't find any data. And we said, okay, maybe we can buy a bunch of Geiger counters, have people collect data and share it. And maybe that is the way to go. But then we found out that all Geiger counters were sold out in the first 24 hours. So then we said, okay, then why don't we do it ourselves? So we said, maybe we can make Geiger counters. Maybe we can give them to people. Maybe we can collect the data. Then if we have the data, we can share the data. And we need to do it really fast. So that was a tall order. And we did this all in the first month after the disaster. And what we did is we got a lot of people together to think about this problem, not just here in Tokyo, but with Japan. We got people together all around the world, but how can we solve this problem really fast? And we were talking to experts in the radiation field, people that could build things, people that had worked with networks and communities, how to make this happen. And what we did is out of all things, we got a few people together and we said, what if we make something that's the same thing like Google Street View, a Geiger counter that you can put on a car. And if we can drive around, then with the limited equipment we have, maybe we can collect a lot of data. So we got a bunch of people together, Japanese volunteers and people living here, and we put together what we call the Bento Geiger counter system, Bigaigi, and we put it on a car, and we started to drive towards Fukushima, and we started to measure with it. We built it in less than a week, software, hardware, and thinking it through, hoping it would work. And magically, it actually did work, and we started to collect data with this in the first month after the accident. So then when we did this, I said, hey, this is exciting, but we need much more people to do this. Japan has 1.2 million kilometers of road, so we said, how do we measure that? So we started to build many more of these so-called big Bigaigis, and we gave them to volunteers in Fukushima and other parts of Japan. And they started to drive around. This is in Iwaki. This is a volunteer group there with the smallest car I've ever seen, but they drove around the entire city and measured it in the first month after we started. So we did this for many, many years now, and we have measured every single road in Japan, literally from Hokkaido to Okinawa. And we have measured that not only once, we have measured it many, many, many times. We're still measuring that with volunteers. And that allows us to see what is happening over a period of 8 years. We also made this data public and open. You can download all our data. You can do with it whatever you want, but it also allowed people in Fukushima to really start to understand where what happened, and they could make much better plans around how to deal with it. Even today, our data is being used for that purpose. So that openness is really important. If you share something, you get much more out of it. Then the next problem we had was that the devices we were building were a little bit expensive and they were hard to put together. So we said, can we make something that everybody can build? And not only in Japan, because outside of Japan, a lot of people wanted to do the same thing, interestingly enough. So we came up with this version, which is a much smaller version that anybody can build. And we called it the Bigaigi Nano. Here you can see a group of students in, I think this is in Aizu in Fukushima, that were able to build this on their own. And we started to do many, many more workshops. So today we have maybe thousands of these worldwide that are being used. And people are driving them around. They build it on their own. They pay for it on their own. They do everything on their own. This is the map of the world today. As you could see, Japan, we have measured everything. But today in the US, Europe, parts of Asia, parts of Africa, we have many, many, many people that are built the same thing and delivering the data to us. We have about 120 million data points. In Japanese, Ichoku Niseman data points collected till today. Another thing we said is, okay, if we measure by car, we also want to know what's happening 24/7. So we started to build sensors that are kind of fixed sensors. They're in one single location. They send data out every 5 or 10 minutes. This is a prototype of that sensor, and we started to put them in Japan and other places in the world. We extended that version. The current version has a solar panel, so we don't have to plug it in anymore. But it also has air quality sensors in. As you may be aware, there is a lot of problems around the world with air quality. And a lot of people came to us and said, can you do what you did for radiation, but with air quality? So that's our current project, and we're working on that. So with that, we were able to create a system that people can install wherever they live. This is in Odaka. This is just before Odaka was opened for people to return. And we worked with the local community center there to put a sensor that everybody in the street, this is in front of the station if you go there, they can see what's happening. Again, it's open data and everybody understands it. So this is how it looks like. These are the sensors we have in Japan. There's actually one here on the roof. You can see the radiation levels 24/7 if you go to our map. Even today, you can also see it in other places in the world. We hope to expand this network over the coming year or so that by the Olympics we can share this data with everybody coming to Japan. And believe me, there's a lot of people asking us about that already. Another thing we have been doing is actually, this is with the help of Mori Building, we started to do a lot of educational programs with young people. This is Mori Kids Work Camp. This summer, over the last 5 years, we have been doing summer camps with kids here where we tell them about all the aspects of the project, the science, but also how do you build your own Geiger counter. We teach them about how to become a citizen scientist. They measure around the building here. And this workshop has not only been done here in Tokyo, we have done it in many places in the world and many places in Japan as well. Very popular workshop every year. We have a long waiting list to get in. Kids really are interested in this. And the other thing is what we've been doing is we have to preserve this information for the future. A lot of the kids that come to the workshop were 5 or 6 years old when the earthquake happened. Didn't really understand what was happening, but for our future, we need to understand how it all happened. We also publish a report. If you really want to understand what's happening in Fukushima today, we have done a tremendous amount of research around that. And you can download this report. It's about 200 pages. English available, Japanese also available. Safecast is a volunteer organization. We have been doing this for 8 years now. Many volunteers here in Japan, also in other parts of the world. I invite you to check out the project, and if you feel inspired, come and join us. Thank you so much.
Peter-san, thank you very much for your wonderful presentation.
Thank you.
I remember back in 2011, people were so confused because we couldn't find any right information about radiation level through the media. So your work is very inspiring. And I would like to know what your next stage would be. Are you interested in measuring soil pollution to water pollution?
Yes, our current focus is around air quality. It's a worldwide problem. Because we're doing citizen science, which means we do it all together, we have been looking at ways to do that in a meaningful way that is scientifically working and can work with everybody else. So that is something we're focusing on. Water is the other major problem in the world, increasingly. Not just the scarcity, but also the quality of the water. Japan has wonderful water. I'm from Holland, we have good water. But it's an exception, actually. So we want to work on water. But scientifically speaking, the technology to make that happen is not really there yet. So we're working with people to see how can we make that as easy as it was to make this thing work. So that is where we're focusing.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
ありがとうございます。
Thank
Thank you so much. Thank you.
ありがとうございます、ピーターさん。